Hello, hello, hello. So, it's time for like another live weird awkward chat thing on Instagram. Thanks, I'm Lee Christian. This is Saturn 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 with the new singers of the... Oh, here we go. It will speak of the devil. So send a request. Yeah, there you go. Right, so yeah, as you can probably hear, this is the song. I'm just trying to find somewhere to prop this up. Hello, how you doing, dude?
All right, man. How are you?
Hey, yeah, all good. I was
Good.
just
Awesome.
giving a sneak preview for a little while.
I heard it. I've thought I recognised that tune, and it sounded pretty good, actually.
Yeah, well, it's just as well.
I had a
isn't
pretty
it?
good.
Yeah,
I had
I'm
a
gonna
pretty
have
good
to, I'm gonna
mixer,
have to
though.
slouch down, I think.
Yeah, no, that's all right.
So if I'm not bored, I'm just leaning back quite casually. And if I
That's
seem
all right.
like I'm really sweaty, I've actually just got out of the bath because I thought I'd fit it in earlier because I went for a little run and stuff, and so yeah, so it's not you. Don't worry. Or do we? Yeah, I don't know. Would that be a cause for concern? I don't know.
I
But
think it'd be a compliment, actually.
yeah, I guess, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it would.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I do get pretty nervous and sweaty when I meet famous people, actually. I do, like, there's something really difficult. I can't shake that, like the kid in me that's
Yeah.
like, it's this guy or whatever. And like, even no matter how old I get. And also, I've always had this thing where if anybody's taller than me, I presume they're older than me, which obviously has gone really wrong as like time's gone on. And I'm
Yeah.
like 5'5", so like almost everybody's taller than me. Do you know what I mean? So I end up
Wow.
like, so I have this kind of like weird, like I'm still a kid thing, like with a lot of like situations like that. So if I meet someone that, I kind of like especially think is famous from back in the impressive days, then
Yeah.
like, do you know what I mean? Then I'll be like, wow. Whereas, I could meet someone from any band from like when I was in a like Smilex more or less. I think when we were doing serious bands, like any band that got famous from about then, with a couple of notable exceptions, I wouldn't really be that like starstruck and sweaty and nervous or anything like that. But still, just the weirdest person that only I even like from like yesteryear, and I'll be like, do you know what I mean? So, yeah.
That's
Yeah.
why I'm taking it as a great compliment that you're
But I'm so
clearly
sweaty.
nervous
Yeah, yeah.
about a real
So I was doing
a
because I thought the band's
star,
name
if
was
you want to call it
Sweating,
that.
Sweating, Sweating. Is that not? Is
That was
it
definitely in the mix as
in
an
the
idea.
right?
It was
Yeah.
definitely in the mix as an idea.
Whilst
No doubt.
recording, certainly. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So yeah, tell us about like the recording. Well, first off, tell us about the song.
Yeah.
Why you kind of got back recording, I guess. Give us a bit of a nutshell of like. Obviously, we'll talk a bit more about Mike Cigaro, but presuming that you haven't done any music in a while, after doing quite a lot, why
Yeah.
did you kind of get back into?
Why did I get back into it? So it's a really good point. I mean, Squaro finished in 2004, so I have done stuff since then, but it's kind of like it's obviously not quite had the same impact because I suppose the band you do when you're young, the first band you're in, is the band that you were always associated with, and insofar as that I am associated with any bands, I'm not, and it's always your first love, right? So that's always the band that I kind of always go back to. I've been in bands since then that I enjoyed and were great and did some good stuff with. But the last gig I did, I've told you this before, it was back in like 2013. It was a while ago. So it's been a long time since I've kind of really done anything, and it was kind of so really about 6 or 7 years. And actually, how did I get back into doing music again? Well, I have to credit my little boy actually for that, Fox, who is 5 years old now. And funnily enough, when he was about 1, I started a little Spotify playlist for him. And the first song on it is Act Naturally by the Beatles, which is a Ringo tune, right?
That's on Ringo one.
They're gonna put me in the movies, that one, right? So so off the back of that, he got a little bit into the Beatles because if you have a child in Liverpool, it is the law that you have to get your child into the Beatles. So I passed that one.
You've got to at least make sure that they have like the appropriate education in it. Whether what they do with that is like any knowledge that you pass on, isn't it? But you have to make sure that they've got like this certain body of kind of like work. Like if you grew up in like in a no, I'm gonna make some weird like cultural thing, which I probably shouldn't. So like, let's
Salford.
just move on.
You'd say Salford, the Smiths, right? I
Yeah,
guess you
no,
would probably possibly
I
say,
was going to
yeah.
equate it. I was going to
Queen.
equate it to something more religious or like cultural or something where it's like if you grew up in this place, you'd learn those
Yeah.
rights or laws of the, do you know, of the land or whatever. So
Exactly.
almost tribal and stuff. Do you know what I mean? So
It's
and Liverpool is,
almost so. So as time sort of went on, I started adding more and more stuff to his little playlist, and it'd be stuff he'd seen on cartoons or whatever, you know,
yeah,
Pixar films or whatever. And one day we were out shopping in a kind of, I don't know, where we were, a bakery or something, and the song "Hey Bulldog" by the Beatles came on, which is one of my favorite Beatles tunes. It's kind of like Yellow Submarine, I think it's on, 1968, and he just started like dancing loads in the shop, and it was like, "What's this song, Dad?" And I was like, "Oh, it's "Hey Bulldog" by the Beatles." And so there's a YouTube video of the official video of that song, which music fans probably know. It's got Christ knows how many millions of views on YouTube, and we both started getting really obsessively into that video of all the instruments they were playing, who picks up what guitar at what point. So George Harrison is playing a cherry red Gibson SG in that, right? And so he noticed that Dad's got a couple of guitars, and it's not an SG, but it's like a cherry red Les Paul. So as a result of that, I started playing that tune, and I started to learn how to play "Hey Bulldog" for him. And I kind of started thinking, do you know, this guitar, I haven't changed the strings in about 8 years, and it's a bit dusty, and all the volume pots have fallen off about 10 years ago. There's probably a couple of them under the stage at the Wheatsheaf in Oxford. And and it was a bit like, so I started just kind of cleaning my guitars up a bit and started playing them a little bit, because they were literally gathering dust. I mean, it was literally a film of dust on the guitar. I'd pick them up every couple of weeks and go, oh, it sounds a bit crap, I can't really play that well anymore, and blah blah blah, right? So kind of like, I really credit him for that, and he wanted me to play more and stuff like that, so I did. And eventually last year, kind of lockdown, I was kind of found myself playing guitar a lot more, becoming quite nerdy, because finding that how to play the solo out of "Hey Bulldog" took me into guitar YouTube, and oh my god, that's not a place you really want to spend a lot of time. But so I started getting quite nerdy about guitars again, and I decided last year, do you know, I'm going to buy a new guitar, and I haven't bought a new electric guitar for 20 years, so I bought a Fender Strat, like a Mexican one, and I started and as a result of that, it's literally, I started playing guitar every day. It is amazing what can happen if you play guitar every day. And
I guess you can't help but write some songs, right?
Precisely, right? So I kind of just started last summer thinking, let's start getting some of this down. I mean, how bad can GarageBand be? I used to record stuff on a 4-track, so it's going to be better than that, right?
I'm always like, sure. Like, I think it'll still be a step up from, you know, whatever we all started on, you know, probably half the studios we started in. Like, if you think about like in the late 90s, you probably went into a studio that had less tech than you have on your average computer nowadays. So
100%. Yeah, totally. So I was kind of, I don't really know how to use this. I was literally YouTubing, how do you plug a guitar into a laptop? and my knowledge has increased quite a bit since then, but, you know, not exactly exponentially. That turned into the EP I wrote and recorded, put out last November. And I'm still doing it and still really enjoying it. So it's very much a kind of a band where, well, it's not a band. It's kind of like, it just allows, it's total flexibility. I can fit being kind of a musician again around my actual life as a 43-year-old as opposed to a 23-year-old. And it's great. It's a form of expression that left me for about 8 years and is back, and I'm really enjoying again. So yeah, that's kind of the story.
That's good. That's wicked. And that's like, and I guess partly down to lockdown giving you the time to actually, you know, like lay them all down and make something out of it, rather than it just being a collection of like things you've got somewhere. Which if you don't ever, I don't know about you, but if I don't put like a fine point, like, okay, I'm going to like do a record or release this song, or I've got to actually have like a plan of what I'm going to do with it before I'll even consider it finished, because I don't work on things to finish them. I just work on them to get the idea down, and then I can already hear it in a strange way. I can already hear it finished. I don't know if that makes sense, but like, you know, like when you haven't got there yet and you're like, oh, I need it to sound like that. Well, I can, if I didn't release my songs, I still know how all of them are when they're totally finished, like without having to actually do it myself. Like the only problem comes when I need to show other people how they really sound, which is then like, oh no, now I've got to get so
that's
now,
always
like,
tough,
do you feel like saying I'm gonna do an EP, like that was only really afforded by like the fact that lockdown gave you a whole load of extra time or whatever?
I mean, lockdown didn't give me a hell of a lot more time
Right.
because
Oh,
all of a
like
sudden we had a
homeschooling and
child
things
at
like
home all the
that.
time, and my work was continuing in the same sort of
Oh,
way,
right.
really. But that said, what it did give was just a bit was focus, and it was a bit like you can't really do much. You're kind of at
Mm-hmm.
home. You start thinking about stuff a bit differently. You start kind of thinking a bit about what's in, and this sounds very highfalutin, a little bit about what makes you happy and what's important in your life
No,
and all that
absolutely.
kind of stuff, right? You know what I'm saying? So it's kind of a bit like, it's not like all of a sudden I had loads more time because I didn't, it was a
Sure.
different type of time, if that
Yeah,
sort of
yeah,
makes
yeah,
sense.
definitely.
So it was kind of a bit like, it made me sort of think a bit more differently. It made me sort of think creatively. It made me sort of appreciate my own surroundings
Yeah,
possibly
I
a little bit
don't
more.
think it's particularly highfalutin. Like like everybody has had the time to actually kind of assess what we're doing in this like weird little
Hmm.
like mouse wheel. Cut the mouse wheel just kind of like slowed down long enough for us to go, what's going on that side outside the mouse wheel for a second or whatever.
Absolutely.
Like, do you know what I
Yeah, yeah,
mean? So,
totally.
so I think everybody like rich, poor, whatever color, whatever, wherever you are, I think everybody's had a chance to kind of like go, oh, what's important again? Kind of
Yeah, yeah, absolutely,
what,
totally,
and I
totally.
think hopefully, like with a lot of creative people, it's just like maybe afforded them just a little bit, like I guess when you do have the opportunity to go out, you've got so many things that can occupy all your time. And
Exactly.
so just by having that thing where like musicians naturally, we're used to staying in and just being in somewhere, just record, trying to perfect this one take like over and over again. Like we do it we book studio time during the summer and spend whole half the summer inside a building. Do you know what I mean? Like trying to like get this thing perfect instead of just going and sitting outside and enjoying ourselves. Do you know what I mean? So when you're actually forced with a lockdown, then it's kind of like natural for musicians, I think, to just kind of go, oh yeah, I know what I do with this time
Yeah,
usually.
yeah,
But yeah, speaking of which, I should shout out Critter Cabal, who is Jen and Alex.
yeah. Hey guys.
Hello, and Leon, hello, and
Mm.
Co GarageBand. Yes, indeed. I think
Yeah,
it's important. Like I like make a lot of noise about like how I think there should be some kind of rites of passage in being a musician and stuff. And that's not to say that I don't think everybody should be making music and everything, but I do think there's like a certain level of effort that you should probably put in if you want to be considered amongst all the other guys who are putting in like tons and tons of effort. And
yeah.
I say that as someone who's, not totally a full-time music guy. I have to have other jobs all the time to, like make ends meet and everything like that. So, I think it's I don't know where I was going with that, but anyway. Um, but yeah, it's supposed to be about talking about your single anyway. So,
Oh yeah,
so
that.
what
Yeah,
I
yeah.
was, oh, so what I was going to say is, yeah, so there's a certain anyway. So how that was going to lead in is obviously there's a certain level of work and promotion and everything, just to kind of keep your music like so that you feel like, oh, people are actually hearing this or seeing this, and it is worth like the time, the money, the effort, etc. that you're putting into it. And I think like as we move into this new kind of digital era and everything, there's got to be kind of a better way of doing that than just like like the local gig and kind of
Mm.
you've got to have to be able to upload things. And now Spotify is kind of like just everybody's kind of got stuff on there quite
Mm.
easily now. So
Yeah,
so it's like a very I don't know what the right word is, whether it's the democracy or whether it's communist or what. I don't know
yeah.
politics well enough, I think, to judge that. But but I think
Yeah.
so it's interesting now. What I'm trying to do with like some of the bands is be able to do stuff with people who are really, really good and aren't necessarily going to be like going through the whole rigmarole that someone's trying to do when they're in their 20s and they want to get music out to a wider audience. And I do believe there's an audience out there. So I feel like, oh yeah, there are people who want to hear this kind of music and maybe aren't getting it from what the mainstream is more focused on and what the younger crowd are kind of more focused on and everything. So I still think, there's kind of like a missing bit in the middle, if that makes
Yeah,
sense.
yeah, yeah.
And that's what I'm kind of trying to bridge a little bit with musicians who can't necessarily be full time, but still are really great and still deserve to be heard. And and obviously there's this kind of like level of promotion and and now that there's no gigs and everything, it's like even harder. It's not like you can just go, all right, cool, well, I'll go get a band together, play a few shows, and that'll be fun, and I'll get my satisfaction out of part that and part having this CD that I'm kind of selling as I go. Like back in the old days, we were kind of like, it's kind of like a bit of a mix of the two. You had your recording and you're really proud of that, but you're also going and doing your gigs, so you had that satisfaction. And as soon as lockdown hits, it's like, oh right, so the only satisfaction now I get is from people listening to my recordings and everything. So I think the focus on making those reach a wider amount of people is important right now. With the cultural sea change and that.
I think it's been super interesting to be doing music again, both in these insane circumstances, but just in 2020, 2021, whereas the last time I was doing it was 2013, and the time when I was really active, and the time that those people who do have a vague clue who I am, of which there aren't that many, but those that do, probably that was early 2000s. So I remember saying in like 2005, 6, I think, when the band I was in after the Mighty Saguaro, I remember going, oh my God, if we'd have had MySpace 2 years ago, like what a difference that would have made. So I just think it's a case of, it's been dead interesting for me, because it's kind of a bit like, I've not been super motivated. No time really since 2013 have I been like, I'm desperate to go gigging again. I'm desperate to be in a rehearsal studio again, because my life has changed beyond a lot, beyond many people's recognition, really. But so in some ways I'm doing it kind of new, and I'm liking it as a new way of me making music. I'm not thinking about stuff that I'm missing, because I'm not really missing anything. I've got stuff that's kind of new, and it's exciting, and it's kind of, you know, making me kind of feel excited and making me feel like I want to pick a guitar up every day, which wasn't necessarily always the case in my latter years of even being in a band, right? But I think it's interesting what you were sort of saying there, because that was definitely the case when I was trying to put my EP out in like last November. I think the difference between now and then is that it has never been easier to record good sounding music, and it has never been easier to release good sounding music. But the flip side of that is there's so many people doing it that how the hell do you get noticed, right? So it's a case of, you know, let's just kind of, you know, help each other out, and, you know, share each other's stuff that we think is good. And you know, and so it's interesting what you say about not many people who can be full-time musicians. That's very few musicians these days, even the famous ones, right? So
when the thing is, when we got into this, like, we weren't looking at Nirvana going, oh yeah, and they're holding down a job at Costa when they're not touring. Do you know what I mean? It's like, so it has like totally changed. But someone said we should lose the shirts. Unfortunately, like, I think like that was definitely a thing that would have happened back in the old days when we were hanging out, just because of the gigging, not because of like the hanging out. Although, you know, you never know. But like, it were pretty wild times back in those days. Speaking of
they were for you, they were for you.
Well,
you were very regularly shirtless. I never had the upper torso for that kind of carry on, really.
I just everybody thought I had muscle, but all I had was like my skin was so tight around like just my actual, that was just my body, that was what was left. It was like Gollum or something. But yeah, like I do remember a couple of wild nights. Like I remember you guys showing us how to get drunk in Liverpool, I guess. And so that was
but here's the thing, right? That would have been like band mates showing you how to get drunk in Liverpool, because I was always driving home, right? Because I was always the organizer in the band, and it was kind of a bit like, and I think that's why you and I, Lee, always got on so well, was because you were the organizer and the sensible one in your band, and I was kind of the sensible one in my band as well. So I use the word sensible by the standards of the time.
Sensible might need to be put in inverted commas there, because I think you're going to get complaints from Jen.
Yeah, possibly. Jen was definitely the sensible one in your band.
Jen is like the weirdest person she's ever met. So, and she's met some proper weirdos, let me tell you. Like, she's met some really weird people. So,
Well, she's met me and my friends, so yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, Liverpool's an amazing place to get drunk, Leon.
It is. It truly is. It truly is.
I've done quite a lot of Beatle tribute gigs in Liverpool, where like we played at like weird places like the Royal Albert Hall and the Cavern, and like just like the best places you could possibly ask to play. and doing these like George Harrison orientated Beatle things, and then always after the night out after was just like one of the most fun nights out. I'm sure Grace can attest.
I've just seen Jen put Liam in the practice room. I don't think I was there, was I? Because I think I'd gone home because I was the sensible one driving home. But I do remember you guys stayed over in our sorry, it is all coming. It's all coming back. I do remember that now.
Yeah. So there's been some chaos along the way. And yeah. So what were your favorite bits of like Mike Sigaro and everything? Like just.
Oh my God, what a question. I think, well, there's a number of ways of answering that. I think I can pick out moments and I can pick out periods, if you like, right? So I think weirdly, the two favorite gigs I ever did were in that band were all, to be honest, on when we were on the verge of finishing the band, which is weird because and if you think it kind of feels counterproductive, but it was kind of a bit like we were just really, really, really good at that point because we were playing such a lot and we were so tight and we were like and we had people who wanted to come and see us because we'd been doing it a few years. We played in the Glasgow in the 13th Note Cafe downstairs with Lapsus Linguae, good friends of yours as well. That was insane. That was one of my favorite. That's probably the favorite gig I ever did, and it was like a really freezing cold, pouring down like November night in Glasgow, and it's not colder or more rainy than anywhere than Glasgow in November. And I remember at that time we just released our single, and it was and again back in the day, talking about what it's like releasing music now as opposed to in 2003. I had a load of vinyl in cardboard boxes, and my way of getting that to people was the week before I got on a train to London with a rucksack full of records and literally walked around record shops and were like, please will you sell my record? So at that point I was getting quite stressed out about how many records we sold at the gig, and I remember at that gig we sold one record so we made £2.50 on all our records, but I remember coming out of that thinking that was really bad for selling any records tonight. But I remember thinking, yeah, but that's actually not what this is about, because we had probably about just over 100, because it was a pretty small venue, just over 100 Glaswegians going insane to our music on a wet, cold November evening. And so I always remember, and it was just
the victory,
nuts.
Really, isn't it?
It was amazing.
But you get quite lost in it. I've said before, the weird thing is also, weird things trip you up, like 5,000 CDs is the same price to print up as 2,000 CDs, and 1,000 CDs is the same price as 500 CDs. So you get 1,000, but then you've got, even though you only ever thought you'd sell like 350 and then give away 100 or whatever, and then have 50 sitting around, somehow because you ordered the 1,000, now you feel like the guilt of the extra 500 that are sitting there when actually you never thought you'd even sell them. So do you know what I mean? You get caught into this weird, it's a thing that weighs you down when it shouldn't even be a consideration, really. But also, what I was going to say, looking on the bright side, look how long it would take you to earn £2.50 now for streaming.
Yeah, absolutely, right? Yeah, I mean, how many Spotify streams is that? That's millions, isn't it? Pretty much. But I think the other one I'd probably look at, which was definitely the last time we played at the Wheatsheaf in Oxford, which is probably March 2004, was. I think that's my equally favourite gig, because we really were on the verge of splitting up at that point. And I remember the gig was put on and it was about to be pulled because I don't think we could find a support band or whatever. And I remember you said to AD who was putting it on, just get it, just make it happen, just put it on anyway. And it was rammed that night. And I remember the night we met you guys, I think it was literally, we played that place to you, AD and the other band. Yeah. And about 9 months later, we played there 3 times as Saguaro, I think, but the last time we played there was literally, we split up about a month later, and it was completely packed. And I remember sort of looking out at the crowd at the end of that, because it was a genuine crowd, right, which we weren't very used to. And I remember thinking quite wistfully, this might be the last time we do this. I don't think anybody really knew that. And what an achievement really, because we were in this town where nobody really knew us apart from you.
Yeah,
and there was like about 150 people there going crazy, and it was just wonderful.
Was that?
But yeah,
I feel like that last one
probably
would have been with Verbal Kink maybe or something.
possibly.
I feel like.
I don't think they were definitely there. I don't know if they played. I can't remember who it was with. It must have been with you guys, I think, but I don't know. I can't remember.
Maybe, I don't know. We'd have to. Terry's the expert on the posters.
Yeah.
Like it's all a bit of a blurry memory for me. Like I remember it happened, but not necessarily lots of specifics. The other day, someone said, Lee filmed us at this gig, and I was like, I remember seeing you definitely. I can't tell you whether I filmed you or not, but and then but hello to people who are saying hello. I'm not being rude, just we're in the middle of the conversation. We're really appreciative that you're watching.
Did we play the Cellar? No, unfortunately not. The only place we ever played in Oxford was the Wheat Sheaf, and we had very, very happy memories of that. Played that with my band after that as well, actually, a couple of times.
Some Rabbits, yes, indeed.
Yeah, we're not with Rabbits, with Billy England, the band I was in before Rabbits.
That's right. Sorry, I got that confused. So where did you play Oxford with Some Rabbits? I felt like you did.
No, we didn't really get out of the northwest really with Some Rabbits. I mean, we kind of did Liverpool a lot. We did Manchester a few times. We were starting to do okay, and it was just a bit like we were getting kind of old, and people were having children and stuff at that point. And we were having jobs and finding rehearsal kind of a bit of a drag and stuff like that. But we did some good stuff that was really enjoyable. But it was a completely different band to Saguaro. But it was no, we don't think we really got out very much in that band because we were a bit old and a bit tired.
And so you ended up rehooking up with Craig for this song, which was obviously cool. And the solo's amazing. Cool.
It is fantastic. Yeah. So Craig from Saguaro. So that's myself and Liam, who's the drummer in my squad. My last two bands he was in as well. So we kept doing stuff. But it's the first time I've done anything with Craig since 2004. I mean, that's not 100% true. Saguaro did get back together for a charity gig in 2013, which was good fun. So we played together then. But apart from that, that's the first time we've ever done anything together. So we were just chatting over lockdown about nerdy guitar stuff. And we kind of, because we live pretty close to each other. And he just sort of said, if you ever need any guitar playing, doing on anything, let me know. And I did the whole, yeah, man, we'll do. Yeah, cool. Yeah. Anyway, see you later. As in, yeah, okay, if that ever happens, great, that'd be nice. But probably not gonna. But then I was kind of writing this tune, and I had this middle 8 bit, and I was a bit like, I like the chord progression there, but it needs something. It's probably not lyrics. It's probably a solo. It probably feels like the kind of one that I wouldn't really play. So I thought, oh, hang on a minute, because it's so easy to do now. Just and he said, yeah, and he did it.
Situation?
Yeah, exactly. So it worked, and it was really, really lovely to do. And it's a great solo. It's a great solo, not because it's like super mega technical, and it's more technical than I would ever come up with. Craig is a proper rock guitar player, right? I mean, the bands he's been in since we were in our band were really heavy bands, super heavy, kind of doomy stoner bands, like hardcore kind of type stuff. Really, really awesome, really down-tuned, heavy riffs type thing. And he came up with this really like poppy melodic solo for this tune, and it's just awesome. He's done such an amazing job on it.
It reminds me of like Pumpkins, not when they're being grungy, but when they're being poppy.
Yeah, exactly.
When he kind of goes, oh, I'm going to do this kind of like quite a like, it's showy, but not in the kind of like, because Billy Corgan can play quite a lot of quite shreddy kind of, classic rock lead kind of stuff. But actually, every so often he'll write a really nice like poppy song, and then he'll stick a really nice like ascending thing in a solo or whatever, like a Stand Inside Your Love or a, that kind of a vibe or whatever. I thought it had that kind of a nice vibe about it. Definitely on the some of the little ding 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 at the end as well, it really reminds me of Rubber Soul, Beatles.
It does, doesn't it? Nice. If I needed somebody, it sounds a bit like it is a bit twinkly. Yeah, it's a lot twinkly. I mean, I kind of joked with him. It's probably the poppiest thing he's ever recorded and he's ever been on, which it possibly is. But that's great, because I suppose that's
when it's on a single. That's kind of what you want, isn't it?
That's what you want.
That's what you want. That's what I'm sure Jimmy Page. Like there's a lot of stuff he played, but then if you listen to the solos that he contributed when he was doing session stuff for like the Kinks or whatever else, so they're like quite concise little like, oh, okay, I'm going to do this, and it's going to go from there to there, and that's it. Whereas
Exactly.
you know, you see Led Zeppelin in their normal element, and he's like, all right, I'm off.
Yeah.
It's like,
Exactly. Right. Exactly.
Yeah, cool, man, wicked. So yeah, so have you got many plans for after like this recording? Are you gonna get a band together, play the songs, or are you gonna just kind of like take it slow on that, or are you gonna, have you got new songs already?
Yeah, I've got a few new songs working on. There's kind of three that I'm working on. The first EP I did was kind of 5 songs because I just thought 5 songs kind of feels almost like not an album but not a single. So I mean, I don't know. Some of like the latter songs on the EP haven't had a huge amount of listen. So I'm thinking I'm just going to do 3 songs like super well.
Sure.
So yeah, I'm thinking probably the summer I'll probably put them out. I'm waiting for a fuzz pedal to arrive from Norway, and because I want to use that on it. But it's I'm working on a couple of new things after that. Now, in terms of a band, it's by no means inconceivable. It's a bit inconceivable at the moment because nobody's allowed to leave their house,
Sure,
and
there's
no
no
rehearsal space open. But it's by no means inconceivable. I don't know. There's no plans afoot for it, but who knows? It'd be nice,
cool.
wouldn't it?
Wicked, yeah. If anybody's got any questions, by the way, for Ben, then feel free, because like I don't really plan like anything that I'm going to say. I just kind of come on with the knowledge that like I can probably wing a chat like quite easily, if you know what I mean. So yeah.
I was going to email you in advance and say, have you got any questions you're going to ask me so I can prepare? But then I thought, no, it's Lee.
I think being honest, for things like this, nobody really wants to hear scripted, like kind of like meditated interview anyway. They just want to hear some people shooting the shit and being like kind of their genuine selves, I think. So I think, is Saturn your favorite planet?
Is Saturn great from Grace? That's a really excellent question. So do you know, it possibly, it's what a question. I mean, where do you begin? I think it could be because it's obviously a very interesting kind of makeup, and everything I know about the solar system, I basically learned from children's YouTube videos. By the way, just so that's a mine of information out there. By the way, so I'll just throw that out there. But I really am interested in Saturn as a planet because it's obviously there's like no solid surface to it. If you watch kind of Professor Brian Cox's The Planets on BBC, it says that basically 4 billion years ago, it started off as like a rocky planet. So it could have turned into like another Earth, but because of where it was and because of how big it got, it just brought all this insane gas into it, and that made blah, blah, blah. Right, anyway. So far, so not very interesting. But what is interesting about it, like, it's like, how did the rings form? Well, they think 2 moons bashed into each other, and that scattered all the dust everywhere, so they formed the river. And then there's another thing where actually there's a couple of moons around it, which possibly do have the conditions for life to potentially exist.
Yes,
so that's interesting, right? So that's really interesting.
Because do you know the Stevie Wonder song Saturn? Of Songs in the Key of Life. And it's about like going to live on Saturn, which I'm guessing is like a kind of like actually he wants to live on like the moon that neighbours Saturn, but that wouldn't make as good a song, probably.
Wouldn't make as good a song. Wouldn't make as good a song, no. So that's a great question, Grace. Is it my favourite planet, or it's up there? Let's go with that. It's up there.
Hi Tash, by the way, previous single of the month. Tash. I hope you're well, by the way. We haven't actually seen each other in person since, because Tash was ill. She got actual COVID, so which was crazy.
So. I hope you're doing okay.
Yeah, so, okay, hang on, right. So we've got, hey, Benneth, what a pleasure. How do you find the time being a dad-in-law?
I think I know who this is.
It usually happens post-midnight. Great work regardless. Post-midnight's a great time.
Yeah, so
like don't diss it, because like that's where Prince like made like half the genius stuff that he made, and most of the great music that you probably know, it's once like you have that free of restrictions, you can play when you want. Jimi Hendrix used to burst into Electric Ladyland at any time of night and have like jam sessions and everything. I think it's actually a really good time for creativity. Michael Jackson, when he was doing the This Is It rehearsals, Kenny Ortega said to him, Michael, you've got to like get to sleep earlier like than you are at the moment. And Michael Jackson said, well, if I go to sleep, Prince will get all the good ideas. And that's a total quote. So yeah, I do a lot of my work between like midnight and like 4 in the morning kind of thing. And I find it really focusing. But it's your question, so you go for it.
It's a great question. So that is Young Sundays is my good friend Gary, who was actually my housemate at university and my really very very close friend. Possibly, we were very very tight friends at university in Leeds, and it's lovely to hear from you, Gary. I hope you're doing okay, and your family are doing well too. So, what a good question. I think this is why it has turned out in the way it has, really, because you can plug a guitar into a USB interface with some nice guitar amp sim plugins on your amp, put your headphones, and you can be completely lost in a world of playing insanely loud rock music, but nobody in the house can hear you. That is amazing. Like, well, that was not possible.
There's this like ching, 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 ching.
You can hear the ching, 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 ching. But like, he's asleep by then. So yeah, I mean, it's a really great point. I mean, it's not after midnight because I'm just too tired by then, because I get up at 6 o'clock in the morning every single day. I've become a morning person as I've got older. But yeah, everything I've done that is music, so guitar, bass, keyboards, etc. Though Fox is does a few little keyboard bits, sort of, and he's obviously done them during the day. But everything I've done on everything. So the 5 songs on the EP, this tune, the stuff I'm working on now, it all has been recorded pretty much silently from about 9:30 in the night till about midnight onwards. The difficulty is vocals. How do you record vocals? Because my vocals are quite sort of shouty because I'm not a very good singer. So it's I find I have to sing at a very loud volume to get the tune out I want. So that's tricky. So I recorded the vocals for this song literally the one day that school was open at the beginning of the year. I knew full well that schools were going to close the second on the Tuesday. So I just thought recording vocals at home with a full house is just a nightmare. So it's just kind of cringe, but also it's just not ideal. It's just super not ideal. So it's kind of I knew that day I came home with my wife Nicola and just sort of said, I'm going to record all those vocals now. Give me 2 hours. And I recorded about 6 or 7 vocal tracks, about 4 of which are on the actual final track. And I think the previous EP, when school was in, I basically did it all then during the day, because obviously you can't really shout really loudly kind of at night. So it's a great question. And this is kind of where the second question I've seen about the stress of the band thing kind of comes into it. So it's kind of, thank you for the question. What was the question again? Do
you find it liberating without the stress of a band?
So the answer to that is, sadly, yes, actually. It is liberating because it means I can make music that I really, really love and makes me excited and is really, really loud at home at night after 9:30 when the house is quiet. And I just couldn't do that before, and it's basically like that, because that wasn't like my life back then. I didn't have a family back then, and I now do. So it does make it a bit easier. But I think in a weird kind of way, the reason I hadn't really done anything for a long time is I got kind of bored of being in a band. I never got bored of. It's like, right, you'd never stop loving music. You never stop liking music. You don't get to 40 and go, I don't like music anymore. You still love music. You still love the music you'd like when you're a kid. I still do. I'm sure everybody on this chat does as well. So, but it's just
watching us waffle on.
Sorry, we probably need to cut this a bit short, don't we? But I think it is massively, because I think it's just like you're only dealing with yourself. Do you miss collaborating with other people? Yeah. But I think for me, it's a bit like I'd started to think about being in a band in kind of 2 realms. There's the physical act of playing music. Do you miss doing that? Yeah, I really do miss that, because that was never got old. That was amazing. But the other bit, which kind of is about 75% of the actual time of being a band, is all the other stuff.
The more serious it gets.
Yeah.
I mean, they say like if you love something, you should not work in it because you'll soon become like embittered with it. And I definitely feel like working in music like made me quite embittered with the whole like process and industry. And now I think I just kind of got to maybe over a hump, if you know what I mean, where it's like I can kind of see it for what it is and do what I do and not really worry about it too much.
I think that's exactly right. I mean, I think I have huge regard and love and affection for everyone I've ever been in a band with. I've never fallen out with anyone I was in a band with. So it's not that. It's just a case of, especially when you get a bit older, and obviously because we all have to work for a living, and you're doing a job, which I think the last band I was in, when he got to it with some rabbits, like Liam and Pooley, the other guy, they'd just had babies, right? So they were turning up to rehearsal an hour late, because you would do, right? Anybody who's ever had a baby understands kind of that day doesn't tend to run that smoothly, and forgot on a piece of important equipment, and I'd just been working all week and I was absolutely exhausted. By the time you kind of get there, you are just a bit like, oh man, this is just not that much fun, and it's kind of hard, and you're in a cold room and you're 36 and you kind of want to go home. So on that respect, and I think it's a case of not, you can just kind of make your own decisions and do your own thing, and like you do miss the collaboration, you do miss the physical act of playing loud music with friends,
with other people,
making noise with other people, and you do miss that. But it's the other stuff,
especially specific chemistries. If you've had specific chemistries as well, it's very hard to kind of like. I did a live Insta live, like just weird little. I do these every so often, little performance kind of thing where it's like half a rehearsal. It's just for the sake of being able to sing some songs, really. And play to some people and stuff, but like but yeah, I did like a couple of songs because someone said do some Smilex songs. I was like, so then I did like singing over a live version of Us at Cornbury, and I think Jen was on bass actually for that recording, and it was, and I really sorry, Cornbury's a festival, by the way, but anyway, a live recording of a festival anyway, and I was singing over it, and I was like, I was really missed, you know what I mean? Like the chemistry, like playing those songs. I clicked right back into it as well. Like I knew so much more of it than any of my songs that I've been doing since that I was also playing. I was like having to properly focus on the lyrics, like to make sure I knew what they were and stuff. And like with the Smilex stuff, it was all like so totally drilled in, like.
So it's one of those, you do miss the physical experience of making music with other people, there's no doubt about that, but it's just like it just wouldn't work for me with my life right now, and I'm kind of more than happy and okay with that. You know, in terms of the question, would you ever start a band, you know, to do something kind of one-off probably, but the idea of being in a full-time band again probably doesn't really appeal to me right now. Maybe it will in the future, I don't know.
Do you feel the music will, do you feel like the music, because obviously you've kind of come back into it kind of like not doing what you used to do, but it's certainly comparable to things that you've done before, but obviously working within the no limit restrictions of it's just me, whatever I can come up with against this computer and everything. Do you see it going in, like obviously you've got a couple of synths tucked into what's the name, but it wouldn't be like, no one would accuse it of being like synth music or anything. It's definitely like a guitar pop kind of, you know, thing or whatever, but can you see it like kind of going off in like, I don't know, either like electronic directions or maybe, I don't know, world music or whatever, do you know what I mean? Like,
well,
or do you think you just stick with the kind of like,
I'm always going to be a middle-aged white English man, right? So there's an element of kind of how world can I possibly get without it being like massively cringe. So probably not. Would I ever go electronic? I don't listen to an awful lot of electronic music, so it's probably unlikely. I mean, I think, to be honest, what I'm doing now...
David Byrne would be so angry at you right now.
I'm sure he would, you know, but he's dead. But that's David Byrne, okay? So he's just David Byrne, though, okay? So there is that. So I don't know, maybe, I mean, the fact that the possibilities are kind of almost kind of limitless is pretty, but it does kind of allow you to kind of do whatever within the limits of what your technical ability with the computer allows you to do.
I guess if Fox has more control over the band as it moves on,
as it moves forward, he's just like me though. He'll just make it louder and louder and louder and louder and louder until somebody sensible comes around and goes, might want to turn that bit down.
Yeah, that's the
Might
point.
want
Yeah,
to turn
stop.
that rhythm guitar bit down.
That's the point where you stop, isn't it? When
Yeah, I
someone,
think so.
like when you take the heed, when you heed the advice of being told to turn it down, then you know it's all gone wrong, and you're like, oh no,
Possibly.
it's
Possibly a bit.
so
Possibly a bit.
yeah, so cool. Yeah, has anybody else got any more questions? I don't know what kind of time we're kind of like. We've done about 45 minutes.
We've run over a little bit what we said, haven't we? But yeah, no, if
Yeah,
anyone's got
so
anything else they want to ask away right now.
yeah, and whilst I'm waiting for a question, obviously, if people are wondering what is this all about, there is a single, the state we're in, which is you can get through the Quickfix Singles Club. For information on that, visit www.quickfixrecordings.com. We keep revising the page so that it looks a little bit more easy to navigate and stuff, because the website's a little clunky. And so thanks very much to Terry for keeping on revising the page and making it look a little bit better than it did before and stuff like that. We're taking everybody's kind of like feedback as well about it, so we're trying to improve it as it goes and everything. But hopefully everybody's enjoying the club so far. If anybody's in the club so far, please do say like so in the comments if you've been liking it and stuff. And yeah, we've had Tash Caesar, Sex Wild Eastern now, obviously Saturn Saturn Saturn, i.e. Ben. Yeah, do go and check it out. It's like a tenner for the whole year, which is cheap as chips, or maybe cheaper than chips. I feel like if you, yeah, I don't think you could get tenner for chips for the whole year.
Not for the year, no. It'd be pretty bad
even
chips.
just once a month. I don't think you could, like, unless it's like one chip or something. I think like, but generally, I don't think you could even get like a portion of chips once a month for that. So it's cheaper than chips. So
not in the south, Lee. You know, maybe up
no,
here in the gritty north. But you know,
no, okay. Before we wrap this up, like, how much is a packet? Say in in a chippy in some paper. How much is some chips in Liverpool?
Just the chips, about £1.
Just chips.
Just
well,
the
some
chips,
vinegar and salt, but they shouldn't charge you extra.
They don't charge for that. No, they don't charge for that. Yes, this is the People's Republic of Liverpool you're talking about. So it's like £1 for just the chips, like
Quid? Would you say a quid?
About that, yeah. It's kind of a meme.
I reckon it's nearing £2 here.
Get out of town.
I would say, it's nearing £2. If anybody else is living somewhere, I'd really like to know. This can be like how much is a pint of milk type test, isn't it? Like,
are you in touch with the people type thing?
Yeah, I feel like I mean, we definitely got some chips in Bristol recently, which were very nice. But I kind of thought, wow, that was a lot for chips. So used to get £1 chicken and chips in London. Yeah, used to, but how much now? Oh, you're saying pre-COVID. In which case, yeah, that's valid. That's the last time that you could.
That's great value.
Wow, that is amazing. Value. Yeah, is that like places like Sam's? Oh, it's all right. Nobody's going to get that weird deep cut. But yeah, okay. Yeah, cool. Well, I think that's a good enough place to wrap it up, isn't it? I think
it is. The price.
Yeah. So please do visit. It'll be out at the end of the month, but so you can stream it then. But obviously, you could join the club and still stream the stuff later on. Like you can do both, and there's loads of extra stuff. We're going to try and get like a little live thing together sometime before the end of the month with a little weekend of fun. So that'll be worth doing it, which will be for subs only. So yeah. So if you're not in the cool club, you can't come. So yeah. But yeah, cool. Thank you so much for joining us, Ben.
No worries, guys.
See you
Thanks,
a bit more over the month.
We'll see you again soon.
Yeah, wicked. Take care of yourself and say
you too, guys.
Love to the family.
Will do. Thanks, everyone. See you soon.
Bye.
Ta-da.
Thanks for watching, everybody.